Hello, everybody, and welcome to Après, Midi. I am very pleased today to stand up, ladies. Okay. Lori Zimmer, Maria Krasinski. Hi. Author and illustrator, are back to share their third book together. I'm Not Your Muse. Where's the book? Thank you. Uncovering the overshadowed brilliance of women artists and visionaries, which tells the stories of 31 fascinating women who have been diminished or overlooked by the writers of history. The pair are childhood friends, originally from Buffalo, New York. Anybody? Buffalo! Yeah, all right, Buffalo! With a passion for art history, and finding the magic in the history of the cities they live in. Their past two books, oh man, we have to get them. Art Hiding in Paris. Art Hiding in Paris, an illustrated guide to the city of light. Okay, and where are they? Okay, where are we? Where's the other one? Art Hiding in New York. Oh, well, we don't care about New York. Forget New York.
I'm a New Yorker now.
Were both received with acclaim and center around the abundance of murals, public art, master paintings, sculptures, artists' homes, and hidden installations that are hiding in plain sight in each of the cities they call home, with Lori in New York and Maria here in Paris. I'm Not Your Muse switches gears and takes a closer look at the women whose work enlivened these cities, including director and inventor of narrative film Alice Guy Blanchet, surrealists and political activists Claude Cahun and Marcel Moore, Art Nouveau dancer Lois Fuller, artist, model, and painter Suzanne Valadon, Belle Epoque memorist Fernande Olivier, war correspondent Martha Gellhorn, architect Louise Blanchard de Béthune, and more. You know what? I've said enough.
Well, we'll get
I need them
more.
to do their thing. Here you go.
Thank you, my dear.
Miss Lori. So fantastic. Okay. Was that right?
Oh, no. Go backward. Go backward. There we go.
Yeah.
We can leave it there.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Do you have something to say? Is the music popped up in the recording?
We don't hear music.
Oh, we do. It's a little like
We just got the
little
speaker
dance
here.
party.
It's all right. It'll be part of the show.
All right.
All right.
Before we introduce ourselves,
Yeah.
we're going to do a little trivia to see if any of you have heard of any of these women.
Part of our thing is we're both information art nerds, and I'm especially a trivia nerd. So we're going to warm you up a little bit with some trivia before we get into it.
Because she was on Jeopardy, by the way, you guys.
My forever fun fact in life. I could publish 50 books, but I will always lead with Jeopardy. Okay, so we heard a little bit about some of the people featured in the book. Several of them have connections or lived and worked in Paris. So we've got a few questions about Parisians. Okay.
And just so you know, ladies, you really have to project because there's just
A lot of noise.
From downstairs.
Okay. We will use outside voices inside.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Question number 1. And I see some familiar faces in the room. If you were at our event at Abricot in April, you're not allowed to answer because they're the same question.
Not that you would remember, because they were hard.
So, the artist, model, and writer Fernande Olivier shared a room in the Bateau Lavoir, the famous artist square on Rue Ravignan in Montmartre, with this very famous artist in 1904, early on in his career. He later tried to suppress her memoirs from being published.
Anyone?
Anyone? Any? No? So we're asking, who was the artist that Fernande Olivier lived with?
At the Bateau Lavoir.
At the Bateau Lavoir.
And he tried to
She
ruin
was
her. He
his
did
muse.
ruin her life by suppressing her memoirs.
Picasso. Exactly. Picasso.
She wants you to move back. No, she wants you to move back.
Oh, sorry. Question number 2. The artist, model, and painter Suzanne Valadon Her studio and apartment, which she shared with her son, the painter Maurice Utrillo, and her partner André Utter, is now part of what museum in the 18th arrondissement? The Musée Montmartre, exactly.
I love that.
David.
You gave it away.
I love that museum.
We want everyone to know the answer. Okay, and the last question, last warm-up question. Famous for hanging upside down with a chain connected to a firing cannon between her teeth, Miss Lala was an Afro-Polish circus performer at the Cirque Fernando in Pigalle in the late 1800s, when she was immortalized by this painter, generally known for painting ballet dancers. Degas. All right, that was our little
Not
warm-up,
bad,
little
guys.
preview.
2 out of 3.
Not bad. Well done. Well done.
There are some seats over here.
Still some space to squeeze in. Okay, so let's get into it.
All right, let's get into it. So I'm Lori Zimmer. I live in New York. Maria lives here. We met when we were 9 years old, and we first started out with, next please.
There we go.
Yep.
As she said before, our first book, our second book, as you can see, they're gorgeous, and they're available for purchase after by
back here.
this lovely bearded assistant over here.
He's not
Well,
just our security.
Yeah.
That's what I forgot to say.
That's all right. So we're going to start out today. Basically, when I was I'm the researcher, I'm the nerd. Well, we're both nerds, but when I was researching both of these books, I kept coming across why we wrote this book. I kept coming across all of these women that I had heard of or barely heard of or sounded familiar, and I was like, why don't I know more about them? And I started to keep a list for later use in an Excel file, study this woman later for my own nerdy enjoyment. And when the list got to be almost 100, I said, okay, there's a book here, because this is a little bit ridiculous to find 100 women that I sort of heard of. And the reason that I chose 100 would be too big of a book, but I chose 31 after Peggy Guggenheim did 31 Women, an exhibition in 1943, and it was the first all-female artist exhibition in New York City. So I'm kind of paying tribute to a 32nd woman, Peggy Guggenheim. And at the time, it was barely covered. Basically, a lot of art critics either wouldn't write about it because they said there were no good female artists, or they just criticized it and said it was too revolutionary, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's how the book came. So I am going to read a short passage to get it started about the muse and why I think the muse is a 4-letter word and not a compliment at all. Okay. Historically, to be called a muse among artistic circles has been marketed as a flattering title. It is a commendation that most often refers to a woman whose vivacity and beauty are the source of inspiration for a usually male artist or creator. She is most likely a lover of this great man, and her relationship with the inspired one is a catalyst for artistic success. As a muse, she is a model, a companion, and a collaborator whose immortalization in the man's resulting artworks is meant to be reward enough for her efforts. But the very concept of a muse underestimates these women and their abilities. At its root, muse is a supporting role. The title, a consolation prize that claims to recognize a woman's greatness, but only in how she feeds the energy of another. A muse is like an unpaid intern. It is of no consequence if she has achieved anything on her own. It is by her contributions to a man's genius that the writers of history have chosen to define her, if they define her at all. It is dismissive, reductive, and frankly, very frustrating. I speak from experience. As a creative person, I have circulated in the New York art world for nearly 2 decades, actually now 2 decades. Given that, it is no surprise that I chose a romantic partner within this world, one who shares my passion for art and art history. And as the partner of a professional artist, I've had the word muse tossed at me more often during the decade we have been together. Yes, I've posed for his paintings, written his artist bios, and helped with his career, just as he has supported mine. Being characterized as his muse is not untrue, but like the women in this book, I have found most people assume that is all I am. When they find out I've written books, penned articles, and curated exhibitions, they are quite often in shock. Even today, many people assume that I work for my partner in some sort of administrative role, rather than as a creative professional on my own. That too is dismissive, reductive, and you guessed it, very frustrating. I cannot imagine having to face the same erasure in the eras in which the women in this book lived. I'm just like, how much more? Okay. I think that the women in this book are not household names for a plethora of reasons. Art Deco designer Hildreth Mayer, illustrator and Algonquin Roundtable member Nasa McMain, and Louise Blanchard Bethune, the first American woman to work as a professional architect, were all wildly successful and known in their lifetimes. They had clients, they received accolades, were written about in newspapers, and attracted professional recognition. It was not their contemporaries, but the writers of history who omitted their names from books and encyclopedias, gradually phasing them out of cultural memory. Some of the women recognized they would never get their due. Tiffany Studios designer Clara Driscoll and Jane and May Morris, the wife and daughter of William Morris of Morris & Co., knowingly worked under someone else's name for their whole careers, with the truth of their contributions only coming to light decades after their death. Still, others had their endeavors actively erased from their own timelines by jealous men in their lives. For years, Bauhaus founder Walter Gropius passed off hundreds of photographs documenting the original work of the movement taken by Lucia Maholi as his own. The inventor of narrative film and the first known female director, Alice Guy Blaché, spent decades attempting to prove that dozens of films credited to others, from her ex-boss to her assistant to her ex-husband, were in fact hers. Irish designer Eileen Gray, who taught herself architecture, which blows my mind, built a modernist villa in the south of France, spent years watching her design be attributed to the famous male architect Le Corbusier. In all cases, to simply be acknowledged was an uphill battle. It was a fight made even more difficult by societal norms and gender roles that confined women to the home or in the realm of domesticity. To break out of this role, a woman had to be one of two things: a bohemian, who was truly defiant of society's expectations, or sublimely rich. Each made a creative life more possible, though in very different ways, and this book represents a collection of both. It is true that a muse can be anyone, but this book is about a handful of the incredible women whose life's work has been slighted by being reduced to one seemingly innocent yet completely destructive label. Muse is a four-letter word after all. Next. And it's hot here, right? I'm not just I don't think I'm that nervous, but I'm just like pouring it out. Okay.
We got a full house.
We do. We have a full house.
So now we're going to dig into some of the women, and we're only going to give you a little highlights tour. Otherwise, I'd be talking to you for 7 hours.
That's why we have the book here.
That's why we have the book here. All right.
Learn the full story.
Which, by the way, is how much?
The book retails for 25 euros. There's also a companion deck, inspiration deck of cards with a mini booklet, mini version of the book, which is 15.
There are 9 extra women in the cards. So
Bonus.
There's 40. It's bonus.
Bonus
Bonus
ladies.
women. But
Okay.
all right.
Because you're not leaving with any of those books.
I would really not.
No.
Let-
Because they will find them. This is your chance.
I know. Also, our publisher's distribution is pretty bad, so you might not be able to find it anywhere else.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
America's
Okay,
weird.
anyway,
Oh,
I'm
that's
sorry
what
to interrupt.
actually we wanted to dig into the publisher America issue first, if you want to. What you
Do that after.
We'll do
after?
that,
Okay,
yeah.
sure.
Fair.
Fair.
Because I really want to talk about that, but after.
Okay.
Okay.
Tell some stories.
Open up the discussion scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will begin with the last chapter of the book, The Three Witches. It is Leonora Carrington, Remedios Varo, and Kati Horna. Three women from different corners of Europe who found themselves running from the Nazis, as many of the women in this book were. Running.
The Nazis.
World War II. So Leonora Carrington, a surrealist painter, she was from England and she came to Paris, fell in love with Max Ernst, and was trying to be a surrealist artist here. But as a woman who was 20 years old, while Max Ernst was 46, the other surrealists called her a femme enfant. She was just sort of this pretty little thing that was welcome to the table, but they didn't take her artwork seriously. Remedios Varo, she covered the Spanish Civil War as a photographer and also, is it okay?
Oh yeah, I'm just kidding.
Started,
No.
yeah.
No.
Did that slide?
Next slide.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
we have
Leonora.
pictures.
Okay.
And here's one of her paintings.
And you can go to the next
gorgeous
slide.
surrealist paintings. And
Okay.
next slide, Remedios Faro, also an amazing painter, also a photographer, and she covered the Spanish Civil War. And then, right, gorgeous.
gorgeous.
And then Kati Horna, next slide.
Next.
Oh, this is one of Remedios Faro's
Other
paintings.
paintings, yeah.
I love her work. Kati Horna, a photographer who also covered the Spanish Civil War. Each of the women during World War II, obviously kept moving and outrunning the Nazis, and America at the time and forever anyone that mentioned the word communism in their lives was not given a visa. So these three women found themselves in Mexico City. They knew of each other in sort of, they knew each other's names, they knew each other's work, but they weren't friends. And coincidentally, they found themselves in the Colonia Roma neighborhood of Mexico City, the same neighborhood. And they're spoils of war as they found each other. So in Paris, they were all like circulating the surrealist circle, but as I said, the men really wouldn't take them seriously. So they picked up where they left off and continued surrealism on their own terms in Mexico, like well into the 50s. And they're sort of okay, I don't have a favorite, but their story is sort of my favorite because aside from the fact that they were able to continue their work without the confines of the surrealist circle of Paris, they found like a magic within each other. So the three of them, they became everything to each other. They became best friends, collaborators. Like, for example, this is a photograph by Kati Horna of Remedios Faro in a mask made by Leonora Carrington. They just found this incredible freedom of being an expat, because many of you know, when you're an expat, you're othered a little bit. Like you're part of society, but you have your own rules, and they sort of took advantage of that. And they redefined what domesticity meant to them. They chose it. The center of their practice was their kitchens. They raised their children together. They got into mysticism together, and they just thrived. And being in Mexico as opposed to Paris, they created so much work. For years, no one really knew who they were, and I'm really happy that within the last 10 years, there have been museum exhibitions, Sotheby's, and
Okay.
I want to know why they were called the Three Witches.
they called
themselves that.
They were really into the occult and mysticism, and also they were fascinated by Mexican culture and symbolism, and they just like really incorporated that into each of their works in different ways. But they were discussing the same thing but interpreting it in different ways in their works, and they just kind of they'd be in their kitchens making creations while painting, and they kind of took to liking being called the witches.
Okay, well,
Plus, witches were
I thought
persecuted.
other people might have called them witches, but no.
But witches were persecuted, and they kind of took pride in that,
Exactly.
And just to add to that, what Laura's hinting out, another reason we love them is this collaboration was born of friendship and mutual respect. They were not put in competition to each other, which in Paris or in other areas, there can only be one woman artist in the room, or they're put in this sort of fabricated situation to see each other as competitors rather than collaborators.
Like there's only one spot, so they
One
have
seat
to
at the
compete.
table.
And I mean, I think we all feel that a little bit today as well. But they made up their own rules, which I loved. I loved that their deep friendship that was, supportive of each other is why they were able to thrive. And I kind of wish society could be that way. And we can. We just have to try.
The chapter is called "We Should All Be Witches."
Yeah.
So,
We should all be witches.
okay, next.
Now I can go.
We can move on to
Move on.
Edmonia.
Edmonia. I really love Edmonia's story. So there's a lot of women in this book who were firsts, whether they wanted to be or not. And you can really see the struggle of what it means to be the first. And so Edmonia Lewis was the first professional Black woman sculptor in the U.S. She was in the first class at Oberlin College. Oberlin was the first to admit women, one of the only Black women in the college, which was a huge struggle. It's touted as this great accomplishment, but being there was kind of hell. And she left. But she was
She left. I'm just going to say
Oh,
why.
yeah, why?
So she was staying with this family that they were an abolitionist family. She was born in 1844, as you can see, and they would take in single women. They were a really nice couple, and two of the women accused her of poisoning them, and so it spread across the school. And she was walking home from school one day, and a group attacked her and beat her within an inch of her life, left her for dead in the middle of winter in a field. She still stayed at Oberlin. And then a few months later, a teacher accused her of stealing art supplies. And so she's like, you know what, like, I'm out of here, forget it. And she left and went to Boston.
Yeah. Where she was training with sculptors, and then she had the opportunity, funded by her brother, to go to Rome and study with master sculptors there. To be a real artist.
In
exactly.
Boston, where she made her money by sculpting other abolitionists, and it kind of became like a kitschy thing, as like she was the abolitionist
She's sort of
sculptor.
like pigeonholed into that.
Which is cool, but she wanted to be an artist, so she went to Rome.
Where one thing I just wanted to mention here, so she is of Black and Native American heritage, and she brought all of those influences to her sculpture, from abolitionists to the samples you see here. And so when she went to Rome, she's training with these masters, but she found the artistic freedom because she wasn't judged as much by her race, by her gender, but still felt it, even if it wasn't as prevalent in the US. But she still fabricated everything herself. So you might have a master sculptor who then has assistants, apprentices who
Or they
do
would
the
send
work.
it to a workshop.
Or they send it to a
That
workshop.
was the tradition
That
at
was
the
how they
time.
did it.
You'd make a maquette, you send it to the
send it
guys
off.
who would just sit on the big slab of marble and carve it.
See all the
She
pictures. She did it all herself because she knew like somebody might question it along the line. Did she actually do this? Is this her work?
Yeah. We can go to the next slide.
There's lots more to say, but you have to read the book. So here's the example of one of her most famous pieces, The Death of Cleopatra, which has a fun story in the book.
I think we should tell a little
Should we
bit
tell
of
it? Yeah. Okay. So it's monumental. It's a massive piece in marble showcasing the death of Cleopatra from a woman's perspective and how she's depicted. And
It's after the asp bit her, that story, and it's the only one to do that. So she's dead.
she's
dead.
she's in the mode. And what year was it? No, I'm blanking on
Doesn't
years.
matter.
It was created for an exposition whose year I'm forgetting at the moment. And she, again, was a sculptor with prominence in her time. But through the course of history, it was the expo in St. Louis. It got lost. This mammoth, giant Death of Cleopatra got lost somehow through the ages, through the decades.
It first got purchased for a saloon.
Yeah,
That was
a
called
saloon.
Cleopatra's.
Yeah.
Then it was purchased by someone whose horse was named
racetrack,
Cleopatra,
yeah.
and the horse died, so it was like the tombstone and then it disappeared for like a long time.
Long
like
time.
50, 60, 70 years.
And was found in an abandoned strip mall in suburban Chicago.
In the 80s.
In the 80s, packed up.
In storage.
Just tucked away in storage. And so she's since been cleaned up, brought back to life. You can now see her in D.C.
At the Smithsonian.
The Smithsonian, okay.
Where did she do her work?
Rome.
In Rome.
Yeah.
Where's the sculpture now?
Smithsonian.
Smithsonian in D.C.
For now.
For now.
Yeah. Hopefully she's still on display.
Oh, yeah, right.
I know.
Yeah.
It's going to go back in a storage soon.
Yeah.
To be discussed.
To be discussed. Okay.
But
we
the
go.
end of her life, she was like really cagey about her life, so we don't really know what happened to her. We know she ended up in London, but we don't know because the writers of history kept that
lost
from
her.
us.
Next.
Okay, our Western New
Western
York
New York.
ladies. I know we have a couple. Do you know who this is?
I recognize the last name, but still.
Okay.
Because we didn't, and we grew up there, and we met in a gifted, talented nerd.
Buffalo.
So
Okay.
we grew up in Buffalo in nerd, gifted, talented classes. And I didn't hear of her until I was researching this book. And I'm very angry because she is literally the first female architect, 1881 in the US. And we were kept from her. Can we go to the next slide for a second as you're drawing there? So Hotel Lafayette.
Oh, no
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
In the 90s, when I was a teenager, it was not a great place. It was an SRO, and the entire bottom floor was a pawn shop. And I would go to raves in the basement. My mom didn't know, and like I remember it snowed inside. It was so derelict, but we were teenagers and we were like, this is fine. Anyway, so Louise, she's one of the ones that was wildly successful in her lifetime. We've just not been told about her. Like, she had plenty of clients. She and her husband opened their firm together, and they eventually hired a third person partner that was their draftsman. And back then there were no architecture schools, so she apprenticed for 5 years in Buffalo. She had plenty of clients. She worked for wage parity. She would refuse one of the contests.
So she refused the Columbian Exposition in Chicago at the end of the 1800s. She refused to enter because men would be paid $10,000 for their creations. Women got $1,000. So she refused to participate on principle.
She was an early feminist, but in action, like, she didn't preach about it. She just, in the way that we do now, she just like demanded parity. And she was one of the first women in Buffalo to have a ladies' bicycle. She was the president of the biking club, I believe. But anyway, so Hotel Lafayette, now it's actually been renovated. In 2012, it was renovated, and it actually kind of isn't that great anymore. But for a hot 7 years, it had a renaissance, and it looks beautiful. It's great. And now, like, almost the entire top floors are apartments. But it was designed for the Pan American Exposition of 1901, but she didn't finish it in time. When it opened... What's that?
Where the
yes.
Other fun fact.
Buffalo. So it opened in 1903, and when it did, it was one of the 15 best hotels, because everything she worked with had like modernity in that at the time there were, hot and cold water in the room and bathrooms, which wasn't common at the time. But I love this. So this is from the New York Times, and I don't know if you can see it. And it really, I don't need to read it to you. It doesn't matter. But this little article, it was like a big deal for a Buffalo hotel to make it to the New York Times. And it does not mention her at all. It mentions George W. Sweeney, proprietor of the Victoria Hotel and president of the Hotel Men's Association.
The company that leased the hotel.
They leased the hotel. And then you have like Spalding and Oaks and all of like the Transportation Club of
the person who
Buffalo
funded it,
and
the capitalist.
Walter B. Duffy. And at first I thought, oh, well, maybe this is a coincidence until you read the last line. Yeah. Many well-known men participated in the opening of the hotel.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of an article about a building that doesn't mention the architects? No. No, why would you? And also, I mean, Bethune, it's like her husband did help her. But like Edmonia, like, she was there for every step of the process. Like she had to be, because women, we had to prove ourselves in that way. So she was there with hard hat and all. And she had a baby during this time. She had a very cool husband, I would say. But anyway, we felt really robbed when we learned of her, because like, why weren't we taught that this was this person to look up to as little girls in Buffalo?
And to add that, all you hear about is Frank Lloyd Wright and Louis Sullivan in Buffalo, because that was a playground. They have beautiful buildings there, and
but
we did lots of architectural tours, but they're not from there.
No, they didn't even live. I didn't think
They didn't live there.
They didn't live there.
No. So there are only a couple of her buildings left.
I was going to ask what's left.
Some factories. One of them's a textile factory now.
Oh, that's like a thing now.
Yeah. And like one of them, it turned into apartments. So she wouldn't design homes because she thought that was too domestic. But now one of the factories, because now it's hip to live in an old
loft,
factory.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So they're still there. But the Hotel Lafayette is still there, although a little flawed. Not her fault.
I'm going to go see it when I come back.
Well, the restaurants are gone. There's a coffee shop right here, but Buffalo is not great at maintaining business. So there were at one time. So there was the lobby is now an Art Deco lobby that got renovated in the 30s. But the other restaurant, you can see it has all of her original like Belle Epoque kind of style, like big mirrors with the molding and everything. You can walk through it, but as of now, there's nothing there. It was the Buffalo Tap Room for a while.
Yeah, sure.
Uh-oh. This is Acer. She's great. You haven't heard of her.
Okay, we're back. Okay, I think we go to the next one.
Oh yeah, and this building's gone.
Yeah, that building's the pointy tower building's not there.
That's the library now.
Okay.
And this is where I used to go to concerts in the 90s.
All right.
Bricktop. This is a Paris-related lady.
Yes.
Okay, so this one is exciting for me because I love research, and while I was researching this book, I got to go to so many like private libraries and collections. And Ada Bricktop Smith, we'll just call her Bricktop from now on. She moved back to New York for the ending of her life, so all of her correspondence is there, and I got to check it out from the Schomburg Center. Boxes and boxes. This woman kept everything. So all of her, like, we'll get into it. Yeah. I'll tell you, you'll see it. Can we?
I think next.
Let's go to the next one.
Next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh wow.
she grew up in Chicago and then became part of the vaudeville scene, and she toured the East Coast as part of this I forgot what it's called, I apologize, but it was an African American circuit, and she was just kind of tired of the racism that she felt, they would have to come in through a side door, blah, 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 and not perform for mixed audiences. So she heard that Paris, was like a more understanding place in the 20s, and she moved to Paris, and she first started singing at Le Grand Duc, which was a tiny place in Montmartre, and at first it was really sad because nobody showed up, and then one day F. Scott Fitzgerald came in, and he saw our show, and then they bonded over their American habits and what they missed and what they loved. And then he started to drive her home after her shift, and then Cole Porter came in, and that is kind of how her life changed. And he started inviting her I'm sure he was known for his legendary parties, and he would invite her over to teach people the Charleston, the Black Bottom, and all these different dances. And she became popular there. And finally in, I believe, I forgot 29. I know, sorry, this is a lot of stuff. She opened her own cabaret, Chez Bricktop, which was in Pigalle area.
Yeah. It's the Bio C'est Bon, I think now. Unfortunately, it does not.
exactly where that
There's
is.
just one little piece of cement left from the original building, but yeah.
Sad. Because she had red hair, which was from a lineage of slavery and enslavers forcing
Irish
themselves
lineage.
into her lineage, if you know what I'm saying. And
Mixed race.
yeah. So
I think there's another slide. of
yes,
this.
there is.
Go to the next.
there
Yeah, there we go.
So she kind of became this like landing point for African American performers in Paris, and when they were closed, she functioned as like a post office, a message center. She would do her dance lessons there with the Wallace Simpson, and
Josephine Baker. No.
she first introduced Josephine Baker. When she worked at Le Grand Duc, Langston Hughes was a busboy, and so he would hang out. Right, like she was at, can you imagine Paris then? Like, it blows my mind.
That's why we have her address book and her appointment
But
there.
like, how cool.
Claudia
I
Schiaparelli.
am flipping through this.
Lunch with whom? Lunch with.
Donald.
Oh my God, this is so
But like,
unbelievable.
party at Schiaparelli, and
Yeah,
like,
Prince of Wales first
of
meeting.
Wales.
Yeah.
and like, in between all of this stuff is like tallying up like bottles that someone spent that night. Like, she was just sort of all over. And Cole Porter wrote Miss Otis Regrets for her to perform. And so she would perform that. But she was just like that charismatic nightlife lady that also supported this like whole class of younger performers. She was amazing.
She's amazing.
And then she moved back to the United States when she
the
got
war.
older, and
Yeah.
Died in the 80s, actually.
She went
had
to
a really
Rome.
long
She did
life.
open a Shea Bricktop in Rome
After the
the war.
And she a very short time in Mexico,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the same, so she closed it. She didn't have the same vibes before. Oh, what's the story of the taxi full of?
Oh yeah, was it John Steinbeck?
Yeah, John.
So
Stein-
John Steinbeck was behaving particularly poorly one evening and got kicked out of the club. And the next day, he sent a taxi cab full of roses to the club as an apology.
Wow.
Right,
I just love the
love
visual
that.
of that.
But it just, thank you, Bricktop, for saving like literally everything, every card she ever received, like notes for a speech to introduce Josephine Baker, and I just felt so privileged to like little old me like touching these things from her life, but pretty
Archives,
amazing.
libraries, use them. They're there
Yeah.
to explore. Next.
Belle DeCosta Green. Anyone heard of her? There's a really great novel about her called The Personal Librarian that I highly recommend. Don't ask me who wrote it. Two lovely women. The Personal Librarian. So, Belle DeCosta Green, she was from a very prominent African American family. Her father was the first African American
At Harvard.
Yes, at Harvard. They donated to Howard University. Her father worked for Ulysses S. Grant and raised money for Grant's tomb, which I only went to for the first. I've lived in New York for 20 years for the first time recently. Like, it's kind of interesting. It needs some love. It's very like the ceiling is asbestos, but falling. But anyway, so her parents separated, and her mom decided that they were going to pass as white, and they changed her name. Her real original name was Greener, and so they decided to take on a Portuguese background, and so they thought DaCosta Green sounded Portuguese, whatever. So she was working at the Princeton Library, and J.P. Morgan's nephew was working there. And when J.P. Morgan was going to, so rich men of the day would open their own personal libraries, which respect, because they're leaving it for us 100 years later. You know, they were in a competition to collect all the best volumes, and his nephew Junius recommended her, and he hired her as his personal librarian. So this is around 1905, and at the time, you know, women didn't have that role, and he trusted her implicitly. Has anyone been to the Morgan Library in New York?
Oh yeah, my favorite.
It's gorgeous. I mean, this is it.
This is it.
It's awesome. It is just breathtaking. This was his. Like, can you imagine that being yours? But so it was her idea. She's like, hey, JP, we got to share this with the world. It was always a plan to make it an institution after he passed, because he died only in 1913, so it wasn't that long that they were building this together. But he sent her out all around the world to bid on things at auctions, which she was the only woman doing
Blank
this.
check, J.P.
Blank
Morgan
check.
money.
She helped build Morgan's library?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So she had the vision. He just wanted books. They all were just like books. But she was like, no, we need illuminated manuscripts. We need some old master drawings. We need some paintings. And she had the foresight of that. The other thing that she had the foresight of doing is sharing. Like, so she made copies of everything to like a lending library. Like, men didn't do that at the time. It was theirs. And so like remote learning and inviting in scholars and letting them take over, like go through his things. So she built all of this. I think we have one more slide of her. Next, please. Her office in the Morgan Library is now one of the display rooms, but it's this gorgeous, gorgeous room. But she was like making so much money, like $25,000 a year in 1906. And like,
That was a lot.
that was crazy. So after he died, she thought that she was going to, you know, get fired, but his son actually like really liked her, and his son decided to make it an institution, like a public institution. And so she stayed on and continued to build the collection, and died in the 50s. But like, she was really secretive about her life. She never had children because she was passing as a white person. And so right before she died, she burned all of her papers. But we do know like a little bit about her because she was having a secret love affair with this guy Bernard Berenson, who was someone she would consult. He was an Italian Renaissance master or specialist, scholar, yes, and not a master. And he had some of their correspondence in his legacy, so we knew a little bit more about her from those letters, but secretive.
That article on the left is from the day back in
Yes,
the day.
yeah,
from the day.
So she earned so much that she actually there was a news piece
And
on
she was really
Yeah.
fashionable, so she was also in like, was there other articles in the last slides? I can't remember,
think
but she was also known for just
yeah, here we go.
like just being like,
2,000 for that book. Oh, God, I love it.
she was just
50,000
given
in
open purse.
1900s. Yeah.
He just trusted her. I mean, J.P. Morgan had more money than God.
But still,
So.
the bachelor girl, still in her 20s, like always
Is
diminishing.
she the one that acquired the original handwritten version of A Christmas Carol?
She acquired everything. Yeah, that was
the Morgan.
It was all her idea. You know, like she understood. She had a vision for libraries that we didn't have at the time. That she like how full and the collection needed to be. It's pretty incredible. If you ever go to New York, I highly recommend
My favorite.
going there. It's just such a peaceful place. Okay, we're ready for the next.
Bring it back to Paris with Alice. We love Alice. Alice Guy Blaché was the first woman film director, but not only that, so she started working in film with the Lumiere brothers, with Gaumont. Like she was there at the beginning.
Secretary.
She was
Gaumont's
a secretary,
and she was
Exactly.
invited to that first Lumiere brothers
demonstration.
the demonstration film where it's basically just them walking out of their Lyon factory. And at the time, all the filmmakers were really just focused on the machinery.
The
They were
technology.
like, well, my camera can do this and my camera can do this. And so she was at that original screening and said, this is crazy to even think that. She said, what if film could tell a story? Right? Like no one had thought of that in those years leading up to that. So she wrote, I'm sorry, I'm totally steamrolling. I'm the researcher, I'm the nerd. She wrote, she asked her boss, Leon Gaumont, hey, can I borrow some equipment? And he said, yeah, sure, go for it. And she made, a year after, her first film, The Cabbage Fairy.
Yeah, so here's the cabinet. Well, it's a recreation because they lost the.
Oh yeah,
original.
she made 3 of them because the first one was lost.
Yeah.
And basically, you can find it on YouTube. It's like a woman, walking around and then picking up real babies out of these
Out of the
cardboard
cabbage.
cabbages. And I swear that's where Xavier Roberts got the idea for Cabbage Patch Kids. It has to be, right? But so after working for Leon, she broke off on her own. She made a bunch of films with him for like 10 years, I believe. Do you want me to carry it? Okay. Oh, I love her. She's so elegant. So, like the other ones, her boss was taking credit for her works. So she decided with her husband, Blaché, to move to America and start their own company. And at first they were living in Flushing, Queens. And then one of the trivia questions from our trivia day was, does anyone know where the East Coast precursor to Hollywood was? Because I did not.
It's definitely New York.
Fort Lee, New Jersey.
Oh, no, right.
And then it ended up shifting to Hollywood because, is it Edison? Edison's cameras, he started charging like a fee if you used his equipment. And so in order to get away from that, they moved to LA. Like I don't
It was
really
even
understand
worse
why.
than that. They had like a group that
The group.
you had to, it was almost like the mafia. You had to be a part of that group in order to make and sell films and distribute films. So people said, well, I'm out of here. So that they actually had, in order to be able to do their own thing, they had to get out of the New Jersey, New York area.
But LA, the weather was better because at the time they would, they would make glass structures and use daylight. So
Right.
New Jersey's cold and it snows, so they didn't always get the film that they want. So over the course of her career, she made over 1,000 films, and spent most of the rest of her life trying to. They were credited to her assistant, her husband, her former boss. Like even her Leon Gaumont put out several issues of a book that was the history of film, and he would put his name on her films and whatnot. And you can find some videos of her also on YouTube. At this age, like
She really actively went to
Advocating.
recuperate her legacy and found as many films as she could.
But
There's
a
not
lot
that
of
many, and
them
those were
have
long.
been lost because, that is sensitive material.
Exactly.
But there are, I believe, 100 or 125 that are still in existence that have her name on them.
Find them, see them.
A lot are on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's a great documentary about her called Be Natural, which there was a sign. She had that on all of her sets because she just wanted her actors to be natural. I think that documentary is also on YouTube, and there's a lot of
It's great. Actually,
clips on there.
I had to buy a DVD of it and find a place to play a DVD.
Oh, how
Nice.
great.
It's definitely online. I watched
Which woman is Alice?
This one.
Okay.
But she had like a whole, so basically she had like a whole stable of actors, and she, in her narrative films, which is still wild to me that she was the first person to be like, we could tell a story. She addressed a lot of issues like divorce and mixed race actors, like things like that. Like she was really ahead of her time. She also invented a lot of camera tricks and special effects. She just like had this, she was made to make movies pretty much. And the whole reason she got into it is because her dad died and she had to go to work. So she got a job as a secretary at Gaumont. So it's kind of like chance. And chance that she was at that screening that day. Okay, next.
Oh gosh.
Do you guys know who she is? Anyone?
A few. Exactly. So Martha Gellhorn, she wound up in this book, we like to say, because she had the unfortunate blip in her life of being married to Ernest Hemingway. And so often that is the first thing that people hear about her, even though it was a very short marriage that she ended.
Third wife.
Third
The
wife.
only one to leave him.
The only one to leave him.
He'll love that.
Exactly. Because she was actively a competitor with him. She was incredibly accomplished journalist. She's there on the beach on D-Day. She snuck onto a hospital ship coming from the UK.
Wasn't allowed. She
Wasn't
wasn't
allowed.
given.
Did not get credentials.
Yeah, because she was a woman.
Because she was a woman. So was there in the action, which pissed him off even more.
He basically, like, he had Hattie and Pauline, and then he was like entranced by her. They met at a bar in Key West,
Yeah.
and he's like, wow, she's quite a gal. And then expected her to give up her career when they got married, and she was like, what? So
like, no.
she complained because he was like, there was war going on and he was just drinking in Cuba, and she's like, it's our job to be covering the war. So she left and went to, I believe, London at first, and he sent her a telegram that said, are you a war correspondent, or are you
The wife
a
in my
wife
bed.
in my bed?
Ew.
And so they divorced right after. She's like,
Yeah. He
No.
swiped her assignments, like she was writing for Collier's, and then he knew he could be a bigger name, so then
Yeah.
he offered himself up for the assignment and snatched her assignment away.
however, she turned hers in anyway, and it was
Exactly.
so good that they printed both.
It might be on the next slide.
Yeah.
One of them.
Next. No? Well, there's
well,
you.
there's-
So she covered every war front for 60 years of
Until
her life.
Bosnia in the
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah. She
Right up
was,
to the
and
very
she
end.
was like there. And then we could go to the next.
Yeah. So these are some of her.
Some of her. She also wrote, hang on, I had to write this down, 5 novels, 14 novellas, and 2 collections of short stories. She, before she met Hemingway, she was Eleanor Roosevelt's assistant for her article My Day that she had in the Women's Home Companion. She was the ghostwriter, I suppose. And I think we have one more
Yeah, one
of
more.
her. Next, please.
Nick.
Okay. She's the only one of his wives to not have his name mentioned in the headline of her obituary. That's pretty cool. But so she always just did her own thing, and she went out her own way. At the end of her life, she was pretty old. She couldn't see anymore. She was almost blind, and she felt no purpose anymore. So this is tragic but also poetic because she chose this. She bought her favorite flowers, put them on her nightstand, and ate a cyanide pill and went out that way.
Yeah.
But I love this quote of hers: why should I be a footnote to somebody else's life?
Yeah, I love that. I actually love the way she died. I think of that sometimes. If I'm at a point where I'm useless,
I read one of her novels. I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry, but it's more of a memoir of traveling with Hemingway to China, and she refers to him the whole time as UC, unwilling companion, because he just complained the whole time, and she was just so she's like UC and I blah 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 blah. But yeah, this is like I just wow, she's amazing and glamorous. Yeah, too. On top of being on every warfront, but I just love the fact that she snuck onto a boat, a hospital boat, hid in the bathroom, and was she was the only woman and one of the only reporters on the ground for D-Day. I just badass.
Great.
Yep. Okay, next.
Oh, Nasa McMain. So the Algonquin Round Table. She was sort of a tertiary member of that because she's an illustrator, and the Round Table had famous lunches that would last all day, but the more coveted invite was to her studio after, where they would like trickle uptown to 57th Street. She lived in a building that's now gone, that was across from Carnegie Hall, and Dorothy Parker lived upstairs. And so she would invite, Cole Porter really plays a part in a lot of these women's life. But like he would come play the piano, and like actors and writers, and it'd be like afternoon chaos, and her favorite thing to do was to stand in the center, I love it, in an evening gown with like her little smock over it and work and paint while the whole party was happening around her. We can go to, and she was famously a suffragette. She went to all of the marches, but she was at the time the highest paid illustrator. From like the 20s to 30s for a really long time. She at one point for one illustration she was paid in that time $2,500.
What?
Yeah.
Which now would be
I would like
amazing,
that.
right? Like
That would be great.
it's crazy. So she became extremely wealthy. She and her husband had an open marriage. Her personal life was as exciting as her work life. In fact, after they got married, she's like, bye, and went to Europe with like 5 of her guy friends. And he didn't care. It worked for them. Next one, please. So she did a lot of the magazine covers, and then once photography took over for magazine covers, didn't bother at all. Then she started to paint like society portraits and made a lot of money that way. But she was, the after party to the Round Table lunches were at her house. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, she's magical.
Jane Morrison May.
These are your gals.
You guys know Morrison Company?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Right? Like today we still have these patterns. Like Williams-Sonoma makes a whole, living off of that. So Jane was his wife and May was their daughter. Jane grew up in extreme poverty. She was the daughter of a laundress and a stableman in Oxford, but she met the Pre-Raphaelites, and they were very inspired by her beauty, especially Dante Rossetti, and so she kind of entered into that world. And then she ended up marrying Morris, which is interesting because she was in love with Rossetti, but Rossetti had Lizzie Siddall, which she's not in her book because she was kind of too known, even if people, whatever. She's not in her book. But Morris kind of gave her the Eliza Doolittle treatment, but she was into it. Like he gave her an education, introduced her to society, like art history. The whole reason that arts and crafts movement was so big is it was like a longing for the old days because this is just after industrialization. And so they kind of were complaining about the crappy quality of, like mass production. You can go to the next one. And so Jane became a master embroiderer. So a lot of the work that came out of William Morris & Co., she did. And then when they had their daughters, one of their daughters had epilepsies and she became an embroiderer, but she never made anything for consumption. It was all personal. But then we had May, who was raised in privilege, unlike Jane. They gave her everything that they could. And come to find out that a lot of his and co was her designs were actually designed by May. And what I think is really interesting about this catalog of design work is that they've never updated it. The only thing that has ever changed is the colors, like to go with the times or the trends, which, so like, I love that they're so timeless that we're still interested in them now. So you can go to the next one as well, please. Right? Like, oh, I still love it. I still do.
I have Morris wallpaper in mine here.
I have this tote bag. I do. I have that tote bag.
I think you sent that to me.
So what May did was kind of like, I think my opinion after doing extensive research is that the reason that we still know all of Morris's work is because of her, because she kind of, aside from being, she was a teacher, she taught like other women to embroider and design and whatnot, but also she realized like the importance of her father's work, and so she created the archive that people could then access. And she also spent 5 years of her life amassing his papers, which I think are 21 volumes, which sounds like a headache, but I think we know who he is today because of her promotion and her foresight of how she saw that this was timeless work. But so, you know, she enjoyed success in her life, and then at the end of her life was the party time, which is the next one. Oh no, I guess we don't have her. I'm sorry. But probably the first one. She had a failed marriage with the guy that's not worth mentioning because he seems like a real jerk. And she fell in love with a woman named Mary Lobb, and they spent 21 years of their lives, like they went to Iceland, which is crazy for back then. They traveled to all like exotic locales of the world and established this archive that we can still use today, and that company still licensed today.
Okay. Next. And we're back.
We love them.
Bring it back to France. Does anybody know who they are? You, maybe?
There's a really great novel about them called Paper Bullets I highly recommend if you're into this sort of thing.
Yeah. So Clark and Marcel Moore, which are aliases, they were surrealists, photographers, collage art, really multimedia. Wait, were they stepsisters?
Yeah, but later in life.
Later in life.
They became lovers before they were steps, which is like their parents happened to fall in love, which I think was a great cover. Was a great cover at the time for their relationship.
Yeah.
They were stepsisters? Yeah.
That came later.
But like they met when they were like 15. So I don't think our parents got married till they were in their 20s.
But like a lot of the artists we've talked about, they were working in Paris, and then the war breaks out, World War II, so they flee. They leave to the Isle of Jersey, one of the Channel Islands.
One thing I think is interesting to say is they made a ton of these surrealist photographs, but most of them they kind of kept to themselves. They weren't like shown. They were private, where they would explore gender identity, which was a really radical idea at the time. Can you go to the next?
Yeah, I think there's more. Yeah.
So it was always Claude as the model. They considered themselves collaborators because Marcel would take the photo and Claude would put on the costumes. But this says, "I'm in training. Don't kiss me." You know, she would shave her head. Sometimes she painted it purple, which in the 20s, very wild. Fake tattoo, fake sailor tattoo. You can go to the next. This is where they really become badasses. So yeah, so they had a family summer home in the Isle of Jersey in the Channel Islands. And they were like, you know what, we go to this quiet place to ride out the war. Well, it became a base. They didn't know. So,
Long Island.
So, you know, the Nazis had a whole base there. And they became this like, at the time they were in their early 50s, they became this 2-woman resistance cell. And what they would do is they decided to pose as this like anonymous German soldier who was dissenting and who was questioning Hitler, and write these notes like what is this for? Who's making this money off of this war as the war went on? And this is amazing to me. They would write these little notes and they would slip them in magazines. They would slip them in newspapers. They wouldn't put them in the pockets of soldiers. So like
The paper bullets.
Yeah, those are the paper bullets. They would break into like the church and put a big like sign up. So at the time, the soldiers thought that they were like a huge organization of like 100 or more people, but it was just really two
middle-aged
middle-aged ladies like us. And finally, when they were caught, they found out that they were just two women, and they were jailed. They were sentenced to death. They were not executed, but Claude ended up passing away a few years after because she just got so sick. They were, malnourished. Everyone was not eating enough from being in jail. And then I think it was in the 80s their photography was discovered and started to be exhibited. I think the first time I saw it was in an auction house, which was at Sotheby's. It was like a whole collection of it, and it is really like forward thinking that they were like discussing gender roles and identity back then. All right,
Thanks.
we love them.
Literally, whole books have been written about them, but they're still not that known. Nahi Sok, she was a Korean painter, and she's one of the people in the book who had fame and renown during her lifetime. She exhibited widely. She adopted brought the Impressionist style of painting to her work.
I think she was the first Korean woman to use oil paint.
She used oil paint, so again, kind of like a pioneer first in there, and she was a writer. Then she made the mistake of getting divorced. All of that.
Not even that wasn't the worst. She wrote about it.
She wrote about it. Sorry, yeah. She didn't just keep it to herself. She wrote confessions of a divorce, which caused quite a scandal in her country.
And then they basically like her name was like that telltale like for little girls.
Cautionary tale. You don't want to end up like Nahi Sok.
You don't want to be a Nahi Sok. And she like I think for the last 10 or 20 her children wouldn't see her. Last 10 or 20 years of her life, she was completely destitute and homeless, living on the streets.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I like her poetry. Some of her poetry is about aging too, and I relate to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we have one
more, I think.
So Lee Miller did not make it into the book, but she's in the cards because I wrote her chapter 10 to 15 times, and I couldn't get it right, and I think it's because of the profound sadness. I just couldn't get around it. So she started as a fashion model, and her fashion model career ended because Edward Steichen sold one of the pictures of her to Kotex, and it was the first ad for feminine products with a person in it, and that made her like blacklisted from being a model. So she moved to Paris to become a surrealist, and she was famously with Man Ray. They collaborated a lot together, although he gets the credit for a lot of the work. But like the photograms, I don't know if you know that, like it's a cameraless image where you lay objects onto photo paper. They created that together. Same with I forget what they ended up calling it, like rayograms or
rayograms.
Of course, have to put his name on it. I didn't even think about that.
It's not a leogram, it's a rayogram.
And the solarization of some, like they would expose the paper with the portraits to light so they kind of have this glow. That was part of her idea too. This is her eye. There's Man Ray. We can go on to the next one.
Did you see the exhibit at the Met?
I did.
She's barely in
Yeah.
it.
No, there's just like a picture of
They
that
spent
last
more
piece.
time on what's her name, the Frenchie.
Was it
What's
Dora
her name?
Maar?
Than they do on her.
So I forget.
It'll come
I know, because I'm in this book right now.
Kiki de Montparnasse. Kiki de Montparnasse.
Yes, right. So yeah, that was her before photographs were on the cover of Vogue. So she became a war correspondent. Oh, before that, she traveled during the Great Depression with Dorothea Lange. I love that about her. Okay, so she became a war correspondent, and she would take photos from of the people rather than of the war front, which was like considered a feminization of photography. But more than just soldiers are affected by war, and she was showing that. You can go to the next one.
And just to say, she's publishing these stories from the war front in Vogue.
In Vogue.
So these are going to a women's audience. It's a fashion magazine that is including like real-time journalism from the war front, but telling these human stories.
But then the sadness part. So she was she an Auschwitz?
Dachau.
Dachau.
She found herself in the wrong place at the right time when liberation came and they got to Dachau. She was the first journalist there with her partner to
To see
actually
the piles of bodies.
the reality of what was going on.
Took photos of that.
And they
then,
published them in Vogue.
Yeah, and she kept Hitler's address of his Munich apartment with her, and so after liberation, or the day he died, I believe, or killed himself. Can we go to the next one?
slide.
This is the most famous picture of her.
Yeah.
She's in Hitler's bathtub, and these are the boots with the dust from Dachau.
From Dachau.
Right?
Such a famous photo.
Yeah, and so after the war, she just lost it, and so she married this guy, Roland Penrose, and just kind of became like, she took a step back. She got really into cooking. They had a kid. There's a really great movie. I know I keep recommending other things, but they're great. There's a movie from 2022 starring Kate Winslet, who I think is lovely and wonderful. Yeah. It's done so well. Like, they really told her story the right way. So basically, her son had no idea that she knew anything about this until after she died, and he found in the attic all these negatives of just like surrealist, like model, war correspondent, because she ended up becoming an alcoholic because the atrocities. I get it. It was just too much for her, and I think that's why I couldn't get a hold on it. Like, I wrote a mini bio of her. There's like a little book with like little shorties in there, but it was just, I just couldn't do her. I didn't want to write it if I couldn't do it right. So
One of my heroes. That photo, I discovered that photo.
it's amazing, right?
I know, whenever it first was uncovered, and I thought, this is just the balls of her
Right, 'cause
getting
he
into
just-
the bathtub
And washing
and, like,
off.
Yeah, it's just
It's a lot.
unbelievable.
It's a lot if you think about it,
Yeah.
right?
But when it came to telling a story, she had no boundaries, and that's why I think her stuff. And she's so underrated. To your point, like, Vogue is a great venue, but what about the New York Times? What about?
No.
She did have some pieces like at other places, but like, it is insane how her photographs, which were unbelievable, that you
From
know,
all points of her career.
for sure. I didn't know that about the Tampax.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I
Whatever,
think that
man.
might be the last week.
That is the last.
And here's-
Here's all of the ladies. Yes. So you could see, like, I'm very, like,
There's a
fiercely
lot.
protective of all of these ladies, and, like, it kind of changed my life in a way. Like, I got, like, so Eileen Gray, I know we didn't cover her today, but she was a designer, and she made this really famous table that in the 80s became really popular, and I had to buy one for my house because I was like, I love you. And then the Morrises, I had to buy a Morris dress, like the one that May designed the. But anyway, yeah.
You're an advocate for
There's
these
a,
women.
yeah, they're my ladies now. They're my daughters
Yeah.
or grandmothers. I don't know.
Your ancestors.
Spiritual daughters.
Yeah.
I love that how you're so excited
I am.
about
We
being
are.
able to tell these stories.
Yeah.
That we don't know.
Yeah, and so do you want us to tell
Yes.
that story? Okay, so we weren't going to include this, but Miss Adrian insists, and I agree with you. Yeah, so this is our third book together, as we told you probably 5 times now, and our other books got a lot of press and a lot of, like, we're getting royalty, we're making money still, and third book with our publisher and our all-female team and our editor and our female agent, and no one will touch it. When it came out
Came out in February of this year.
the end of February, and we have relationships with all kinds of writers and reporters from our previous books, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we can't cover that, it's too controversial. Yeah, and our publisher has left us on red. They reply
Very
with
little
one
press
word.
of it.
They have sabotaged a whole lot of our, like, collaborations,
Outreach.
like the New York Public Library. I have a relationship with them, the Bryant Park one, and the shop there wanted to do a whole, because it came out in March is Women's History Month, and they wanted to do like a whole display, and my publisher ghosted them.
But
Like-
why would they say no to revenue? I don't get it.
Because they're
People are scared of being, because the administration is suing Penguin, another of the big 5, and our umbrella is Hachette, and so they're afraid of money over money. Money. Yeah, and it's been a really, really weird, like we all thought this was going to be our biggest
big
book.
And the stories are great. There's so much incredible.
And it's like
stuff in
evergreen. Like, look,
Yeah.
like if you don't like Paris or New York, you're not going to buy our other books. This is sort of a universal thing. And like they did an audiobook. We don't have an audiobook for other ones.
Yeah.
They did
The card
this like
deck.
the card deck. We don't have that for other ones. So they
Don't wanna promote women.
they
They
spend a
don't-
lot of money on it, and they won't.
anything other than, white men.
It's weird. It
It's
sounds
too
like
DEI
it sounds
for
like a complaint, but it's the actuality that we're going through right now, and it's really strange to me that like writers who I know are just like, my boss
Can't
said
touch it.
no, it's too and it's just it's a history book.
But like even papers that you would think are liberal, like the Times or other publications, for them not to touch it, it's just it really.
We got no's. We
demoralizing.
got no's. Yeah, like Huffington Post was
Passed
one that
on it.
said that it was too controversial.
Huffington Post.
Yeah.
Well, they're not owned by her anymore.
No,
but
they're not.
Still.
And even the art one, because I have like the other books are art related, so I have like ArtNet and Art Forum and all that, and they were like, sorry, which is crazy to me because they do push stuff, but I criticize stuff in this book, which is also just reality. But apparently,
What about bringing it to the French publishers?
That's what I think.
yeah,
We would
I
love
think
to.
French
we would love
publishers
to.
would like it.
Know anyone?
Yeah, I know.
Anyone?
Anybody?
Just a technical question, did you have to get any permissions from anyone to put anything in?
No, because they're
And
they're.
did you hear from any of the families or relatives?
Yeah,
of any
Some of
them?
them.
I collect descendants. It's kind of
Exactly.
cool. Like for all of the books, like I've gotten to know a bunch of them.
Hildreth Mayer.
Yeah, one of the women we didn't cover today is I first wrote about this woman, Hildreth Mayer, in the New York book because she did on the side of Radio City. There's these like roundels, and she was like an Art Deco designer, and like her work is seen all over New York. And I met her daughter, who's like in her 90s. I went to their house in Connecticut, and her granddaughter, and then her great granddaughter, and so I got to go through all of her archives and like be at their house and learn about their lives growing up. It's yeah, I collect descendants, but it's really special to like have a personal connection to these people, and they're all really obviously excited because championing these women on their own, is hard enough. So they're excited that other people like us want to
You're
talk about
interested.
them too.
And Hildreth, she might have more prominence now, but at the same time, history repeats itself. If you know, there is Printemps just opened a store in New York City, and one of the jewels of the space, well, I haven't been there, I've seen pictures from Lori, is the red room that Hildreth designed, and it's red with these
Wait, who
gold
designed
design.
that?
Hildreth Mayer. It's the shoe department,
Unbelievable.
and it's a stunning room, and when it opened, she's not mentioned in the few articles I've seen.
Yeah.
She was not mentioned. They referenced the architectural firm that refurbished this space.
Basically,
but they're not.
it's this gorgeous Art Deco. It's in this One Wall Street, and it's this gorgeous Art Deco building. And then the room was, I think it was a banking hall, and it's this tiny tessera mosaic, and it kind of looks like red flames going up.
Yeah.
But it had been not abandoned, but closed since 9/11 because the building was owned by a bank, and they just kind of stopped using it, and then slowly moved uptown. And then it was purchased. It's the only project that was transformed into luxury apartments that I am like positive about because they did it. They did a
did it
good
well.
job. They like respected like the floor plan. They respected everything, and
So she
the apartments are
built
like
for that.
That
30 or 40
space,
million
that
dollars.
room.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
It's like it's
What was the
otherworldly.
process to come up with the title?
A few versions.
Yeah, we had a few versions, but because of my personal experience, like I'm always like, I'm not your muse, like I say that, so it just kind of turned into that. And the funny, not funny story is even, can I tell it?
I don't know what you're
The Miami May.
Oh, yeah.
It's still happening to me, even after. So the book came out in February, but it was printed in November, so we got like the copies. And Logan Hicks, my fiance, he was showing at a gallery in Miami, in December, and we were there, and the gallery director, I like showed her my book, and I made myself a hat. Like I have like merch. I'm like walking billboard for myself. And I told her about it and whatnot, and she just kept like, he was having a show, like it was this year, and she kept like cornering me and talking to me about the show, and I'm like, cool, I don't know, you got to ask him. Like she's like, we should do this, and I'm like, okay, cool, but like ask Logan. I'm on vacation, I'll write this book. But she just assumed that I was his assistant, and no matter how many times I told her to her face, she wouldn't get it. And then a few months later, he went there for a meeting, and she complained about me and said, I was trying to talk to Lori about the show, but she just wouldn't hear me. And he was like, she's my girlfriend, she's not my assistant, like why are you bothering her? She was on vacation. But you can tell people plainly, and I was really disappointed because she's a woman. I'm like, come on, lady. But it still happens. But anyway, it's a little bit of sassy defiance. You can't tell. I'm a little sassy.
So do you think there are women in today's world that are having the same issues?
Like me? Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but I won't write about living people because they have too many opinions. Yeah. Telling a story about, you know what I mean? But no, definitely. I think we're all going through it. I mean, look at just like the female astronauts have been removed from NASA's website, you know, like I think we're going backwards to that. I just like people, I don't know. I think people are people.
Is that international or just U.S.?
I don't know, because it's very overwhelming to live in the U.S., so it's kind of, I can't see past it. Tell us, Maria. Is it international?
I'm just going to say yes, but I can't think
Yeah,
of a...
because for the Eiffel Tower, they're just putting up the women engineers
Now.
names onto the Eiffel Tower. So there's around
Yeah.
just now.
I think we all have a little bit of internalized misogyny, I mean, myself included, and I kind of, writing this book and researching this book, I realized how much of it I actually have, because, like, I do remember being in my 20s, and women in the workplace would treat me really poorly. They would treat me like I was, like, stupid or, like, provocative, which I've not
Or
been.
infantilize you until you
Yeah,
were 40 years
and
old. And
because
still treat you like a
they
child.
were taught there's only certain amount of places for women, and so I trying to preach the opposite of that. Because of this book, I've become really hyper aware of how I comment about women online, how I try to compliment women in person that I don't know. But I realized I fell into it too. Like, oh, she looks bad. You know, like, she looks terrible. Like, we're used to it. And like, even some of my friends who are amazing and want to like support me, they're like, I'm buying this for all the women in my life. And I'm like, well, why not the men? Because it's, you know what I mean? Why are girls things just for girls? Like, I have a ton of books, history books about just men, and they're great, you know? But people are people. But like, the one thing that I really like got confident about from this is these women, they had way more oppression, societal, you know, norms like put on them, and yet they still couldn't, their brilliance still happened. Like, they were like, we're doing this anyway, so if they can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? Like,
But we have to try so hard.
I know. I don't mind trying hard, but I hate when like you try hard and it's still, especially being in my 40s where I'm like that invisible phase of my life, which in some ways I love it, but in other ways it's like, come on, man, like, it is true. Women aren't allowed to age.
We have to prove ourselves so much harder. We have to brag about our accomplishments. We have to make sure we have a meeting with the boss to say.
But you can't brag too hard because then you're too, you know,
jealousy
full of
or
yourself.
You have to couch it in like, this is a status update
Yeah.
of what I've accomplished this week.
And you're like, if you want.
Right. No, it's like we have to prove ourselves over and over, and they say it's not a meritocracy, and it isn't in the broad scope, but for women, it is. Like, you have to prove yourself, and then even when you've proven yourself, you still have to be political enough to know how to shine without overshadowing. We still have to dance back.
It's a job in itself. I was just gonna say, it's a dance.
Don't you think though right now there's an awful lot of media out there, a lot of TV series and whatever, where they really are showcasing women in
Sure.
traditionally male roles?
But the New York Times just published an article that started out as, did women
Gosh,
ruin the
ruin the
workplace?
workplace.
And then it got changed to, did liberal women ruin the workplace? And then, or liberal feminism ruin the workplace? And then the subtitle was, can conservative feminism save it? There's no conservative feminism, you guys. There's no conservative feminism. It's not a thing. It's an oxymoron. I don't know, like.
I almost canceled my subscription.
It absolutely was.
But like, I hate talking about this in a way because it sounds like I'm complaining and yelling, but like, I am. But also not. But also, like, people are people. Like, come on. Like, whatever. You know, it's frustrating. I'm lucky enough, though, that, like, in my career and in New York and Paris are bubbles, right? Like, we're with hardworking, intelligent people for the most part. Like, in New York is so expensive, you have to be of a certain level of intelligence, like, to be there. So, my bubble, I haven't encountered that. I haven't encountered, like, the sexism that other people encounter, and I'm lucky. And I have a good one.
I came up in the 80s, so I graduated from art school in 87, and I had to go to printing press places and all that, and I was definitely, it was a lot of, like, guys with cigars and, like, the nudie calendar on the wall, like, oh, sweetheart, you don't know what you're talking about, and so, like, I definitely, luckily I was in the magazine business, which was a lot led by women, but to go to get anything printed or to, go to present something, it was really like, yes, sweetheart. And thankfully, it didn't last long because then the 90s happened.
The 90s were, they sold me a lie. We thought that, like, media jobs, artistic jobs, writing jobs, we were going to do it. And now I'm in my 40s and everything is like AI.
On that article, there's a ton of memes spreading all over the internet right now saying, let's go ruin the workplace.
Yeah.
You should market this book
Yes.
against
Yeah.
Yes,
Thanks, Whitney.
Ruining the workplace since 1900.
Yeah. I totally should, but
Well
I do
done.
love that. That's happened. They're pretty funny. All right. I love that. Thank you. That's
Nice.
one thing I'm going to do, since our publisher is ignoring us, is I'm going to eventually just release all of this information in a different form. I have to wait until next year, but like, if they're not going to let this book be out there, then I'm going to put the information out there some other way. Like, you can't hold me down.
100 women.
Yeah.
This is only 31.
Yeah.
So,
Well, 40 in the cards,
okay,
but yeah.
so you've got 60.
We got a volume 2.
I absolutely could.
There are hundreds, thousands.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I'm too old to do, like, be an Instagram reel person. That annoys the heck out of me. I just don't like it. I won't do something I don't like anymore. That's the cool thing about being older. You know? 0 Fs. Yeah. Thanks for sweating with me, everyone. Thank you, Acer.
I know. Good job, Acer.
Yeah, if anyone has
Yeah, if there's any questions.
I think everyone's sweating, honestly. And why did I wear the heaviest necklace?
I know. Why did I wear a sweater?
Because it was cold.
Thank you very much.
Hope it was alright.
I was a little fun.
Fabulous. I was a little melty.
Hungry.